KRIS 6 News at noon continues.
Welcome back to your news at noon. As we've discussed throughout today's show, there's a lot of developments with the recovery from Hurricane Hanna, as well as the ongoing fight against COVID-19 in the coastal bend. Now, joining us live from Austin is Governor Greg Abbott to break down how the state plans to move forward on both fronts. Governor, good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Great to be back.
Saturday, you issued a disaster declaration as well as an emergency declaration request from President Trump. Have you had a chance to actually see some of the damages done across South Texas, and what type of help can we expect here in the coastal bend?
So first of all, obviously, I've been able to see visual images of the damages. I will get to see those damages in person tomorrow as I visit the coastal bend region, including Corpus Christi. But what we expect to see, obviously, is there will be so many different facilities. It could be buildings, it could be fences, it could be houses, etc., that have suffered destruction because of this. And what you can expect to see is several things. First, because the FEMA disaster declaration request has been approved, that provides immediate funding to help with the process of debris removal, which is one of the biggest challenges that you face immediately.
Absolutely.
Second is funding to public locations such as the city and county, etc., to begin the rebuilding process of any types of streets or other public facilities that were damaged. Then the third thing is what's called individual assistance, where assessments will be made to see if there is sufficient damage so that people who live in, let's say, New Essex County will be qualifying for individual assistance to help them rebuild their homes.
Now, these initiatives are expected to cut through the red tape, so to speak, to get the resources that we need. How soon can we get those?
So the resources that are provided to the local governments, they are available immediately, as in right now, to help the local governments be able to respond to this disaster, especially advancing what needs to be done for debris removal. With regard to what's called the individual assistance that will determine whether or not local residents qualify for funding to help them rebuild their homes, that's something that will take a little time to determine. FEMA needs to make an assessment. Hopefully that assessment can be made before the end of this week. They typically move very quickly in this process, and once they make that determination, local residents will be able to have the funds they need to begin the rebuilding process also.
And Governor, you made several mentions during your press conference Saturday about how important it was for Texans to remain vigilant when it came to COVID-19, especially with Hurricane Hanna hitting the Texas coast. Now, as numbers seem to spiral out of control, some may say whatever our current plan isn't working. What are we planning on doing differently, if anything, moving forward to help slow the spread of the coronavirus?
So actually, if you look at the numbers, whether they be the statewide numbers or you look at certain regions such as Travis County, Dallas County, Bexar County, and other counties, we're actually seeing a downturn in the number of people testing positive, a downturn in the number of people being hospitalized. Candidly, from what I've seen in New Essex County over the past 10 days, there has been either a flattening or a slight downturn in the number of people testing positive. Hospitalizations follow the high number of people who were testing positive, and unfortunately fatalities follow the spike in the number of people hospitalized. If people can continue these best practices of adopting the usage of a mask or face covering when they go out, maintaining self-distancing so they can continue to contain the spread of COVID-19, and most importantly, if at all possible, just stay at home, we will be able to continue the downward trend in COVID-19 in the state of Texas.
Governor, you can simply look on Johns Hopkins' website and find some figures of other countries around the world who seem to have found some answers, at least, for slowing the spread of the virus. Countries like Guatemala, they have less than 2,000 dead. Argentina, less than 3,000 dead. We certainly have more resources here in the U.S. Do you feel like we may be failing on some fronts?
So as I have looked at different countries across the world, and as I have looked at different regions across the United States, one thing that we've seen consistently, and that is the areas that have COVID best contained, or the areas where the people who live in that area follow the best practices that reduce the spread. And those best practices include staying at home whenever possible. If they do go out, they have the best practices of maintaining safe distances so they are not in a situation where COVID can be transmitted to them. And one way that they do that is making sure they wear a face mask or face covering. We've seen in all of these different countries that have low rates of COVID that people have widely adopted the practice of wearing face coverings whenever they go out. It is essential that people in Nueces County, as well as across the entire state of Texas, continue this practice until such time as we have medicines available to treat COVID-19.
And you've been very adamant about telling Texans to wear their mask. One more quick question before I let you go, Governor. If we cannot get the spread under control, some of the cities and communities throughout Texas, is there a chance of another state shutdown?
So on a statewide shutdown, that's something that we are not looking at, especially because what we have seen is that as locales such as in Dallas and Austin, et cetera, as they have adopted these best practices, it has led to a reduction in those testing positive. There may be occasions when certain regions of the state, I'm thinking in particular like the Rio Grande Valley, where we may need to use additional tools to slow the spread, especially because in the Rio Grande Valley, they are so overwhelmed in their hospital capacity by patients who are testing positive for COVID-19. That said, what we're currently doing right now is we are surging medical resources to that region, and every time we've done this in the past, we've been able to stabilize the status of COVID-19 in regions like that.
Governor, I want to thank you so much for your time. We've run out of time. I know you're a busy man. I'll let you get back to other work, but we appreciate your time here today.
Sure.
All right.
Look forward to being there tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do too. We'll be right back with more after this short break.